Hello everybody and welcome to Analysing Anfield. It's back after a 5 or 6 week hiatus. I'm your host Kristian Walsh and with me as always is Josh Williams. Josh, how are you doing first and foremost?
I'm good. It's good to be back.
It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a while, huh?
It has. Just a bit of a way of an apology, really. We filmed and recorded the first part of Analysing Anfield, which was a bit of a pre-season special. I think it was on June the 18th, and we're recording this on July the 31st. And we had a couple of tweets saying, where have you gone? And basically what happened was we recorded the first part and didn't actually realise that Josh was going away for 3 weeks on holiday. So first and foremost, how was your holiday?
It was good. I did have a tan, but that's kind of worn off a little bit now.
That's how long it's been.
Yeah, and this is getting videoed as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Hopefully it shows up a bit still, but I don't think it will. But it was good, yeah. As
Josh says, this is getting filmed. You'll be able to watch these as well as listen to them now. You can watch them on our Blood Red YouTube channel. I'd recommend it. It's just two lads basically going through the laptops and desperately scrambling to find some statistics. So we recorded the first part, didn't know that it'd be a bit of a hiatus for the second part. Josh went away for 3 weeks. I've been away for 2 because I've been in the United States for Liverpool's pre-season tour. I've been launching some other projects, including Liverpool.com, which is a US leading Liverpool Football Club website. But we're back. We're here. Back in St. Paul's Square, Liverpool, and we can crack on. So if you haven't listened to part 1 of this, basically I would implore you to do so. It was on June the 18th, and we've spoken about Manchester City, we spoke about Tottenham, and we spoke about Chelsea. And what we did for that episode was cover what business they were doing and how it relates to Liverpool and what it meant for Jurgen Klopp and his side. Not much has changed from then. I think we were talking about Rodri at City, and that's been done. We were definitely talking about Ndombele for Tottenham, and that's been done.
It's both superb signings.
Let's just really quickly touch upon Rodri and Ndombele then, because I've seen a couple of people say Rodri isn't what Guardiola needs in his midfielder. I think everybody is pretty much agreed on Ndombele, but what's your take on the 2 major signings from those 2?
Yeah, I think they're both superb signings, just very, very sensible, logical signings whereby you've paid a fair amount, but you've got top bracket really, in my opinion. I think Rodri's 6'3". He's very intelligent, ahead of the curve in terms of the play that's going on the field. So whereas Fernandinho's a bit more energetic and aggressive, Rodri's a bit more, plays more with his mind. He'll offer something for them from set pieces, things like that. And he's just a very clever player, still very young, speaks incredible English, considering he's never played here. And he's just a very, very classy signing. And on Ndombele, I've spoken about him plenty of times on this pod. Very good player. Spurs played last season basically without a midfield. Harry Kane's took him back into playing midfield to help out. Eriksen's took him back in, so his creative output's getting influenced. You're playing midfield diamonds to compensate. So, how do you get around that? You're signing Ndombele, who can essentially do it all. So yeah, 2 top quality signings from arguably our 2 biggest rivals there.
And we will move on to a little bit later what Liverpool are doing to respond to that, i.e. very little. But what we will do today then is finish the second part of our top 6 preview, if you will. And Arsenal and Man United have had a 5-week chance of doing more business than City, Tottenham and Chelsea. Obviously Chelsea haven't done anything, it's worth saying, because of the transfer ban, although they did sign Mateo Kovacic on a permanent deal. So we'll start with Arsenal. We'll look at Man United, and then we'll move into a couple of questions that you fielded on Twitter, Josh, which largely relates to pre-season transfers, of course, and the squad in general. So let's crack on. Let's begin with Arsenal. Strange season for them last year. We know that we're big on our underlying numbers on this podcast, and their underlying numbers are eye-wateringly bad. They had fewer shots per 90 than Leicester, Everton, Southampton and Crystal Palace. And this is a team which contains Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexander Lacazette. So that's just one point, a point of improvement. But in general, the underlying numbers, Arsenal should have finished 7th, 8th.
According to expected points, they should have finished 7th, behind Wolves. But some of their underlying numbers are even worse than that. You just mentioned shots there. They finished 11th for shots taken. They finished first for XG per shot, though, which suggests that they're almost searching for perfection there.
Which is very Arsenal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you can continue to do that whilst upping your shot quantity, then that's a good mix. Do you know what I mean? But I think, the fundamental aspects of football, you need to outshoot your opponent, basically, whilst restricting them to as few shots as you can, really. And Arsenal just failed to do that. They were 9th in the league as well for shots against. 11th in the division again for XG against. So defensively bad, as we know, but the narrative is that they're quite good offensively, which isn't necessarily true because you don't shoot very often. Whether that's a deliberate ploy from Emery, whether that's a case of them not having enough profiles who are more intense on decisive output rather than nice football. It remains to be seen, but they just didn't shoot enough, and that's a real big analytical indicator of the quality of the team. How many more shots you can take in general than the opposition. City, for example, at the top of the league. Liverpool, I think, if you include shots against and shots taken, Liverpool was second. Chelsea took very slightly fewer more shots than Liverpool last season, surprisingly. But Liverpool's was much better quality, though. Liverpool finished second last season for XG per shot, so we were obviously essentially where Arsenal want to be. I like Arsenal's business, though. I think Arsenal's business is good, albeit with very weird stipulations attached to each of them. I tweeted that the other day. I think Pepe, unbelievable sign. I'll touch on him a little bit later when we go to the Liverpool aspect of it. But they've overpaid. He's 80 million is ridiculous, and I think his agents charging all kinds. And
he's had a storm at his agency. He's been holding him out to any club whatsoever. And it looks like Arsenal the ones who've taken the bait. Yeah,
well, that's happened with a couple of players. Bruno Fernandes is another ties the lid. And then you've got William Saliba, again, superb signing. I think he's still 18, but he's really physically built. Good on the ball. All it states of a modern centre back. It looks like a young Van Dijk. But he's already played something like 1,500 minutes in League One in France, despite his age and things like that. So he's the type of person, type of profile who you're obviously investing in with view to developing him for the future. As I said, he's a bit like a Varane, Van Dijk type profile where he could essentially get to a point where he's got it all. And then you got Dani Ceballos, I'm not sure exactly how you say it. But he's again a quality player, but they've got him on loan, so it's a little bit frustrating. But he's a player who will do everything for them up until the final third. He's not the type to provide direct assists or score, but everything beforehand, ball progression, dribbling, controlling the play, dictating the tempo. He's very good at that kind of thing, very Spanish player in that regard.
Cazorla, like?
He's very Cazorla, yeah.
They've missed him, haven't they?
Not as two-footed. But he's a good player. So 3 good additions, but they're getting one who's overpriced. They're having to wait a year for the other one, and the other lad they're only getting for 12 months. So it's one of them.
In terms of recruitments, is that the harsh reality of finishing 5th and not getting in the Champions League? Is, do you have to make do? Do you have to? We know as well that to be honest, I don't know where Arsenal have got the money from, considering they were really haggling over Wilfried Zaha. But it feels like this has absolutely blown their budget now. Is this the brutal reality that you've got to sort of do what you can do to try and get back into that top 4?
I think what it is they've been too desperate almost to get back into that top 4, and I think they've suffered a little bit from fan pressure. Every fan base obviously wants their club to sign players and players and players every window. It's just a nice thing. I don't know. People just seem to be a bit addicted to it. So when Arsenal were a bit shaky, they lost Alexis Sanchez. They obviously felt the need to make statements and go and sign Lacazette and Aubameyang, who are two good players, but they're both getting on. I think they're both over. I think certainly Aubameyang's over 29. I'm not sure on Lacazette actually. It's worth checking that.
27, 28.
Something like that, yeah. But they overpaid for the pair of them. Paid a lot for the pair of them. And now as a result, they got the hands tied behind the back without real long-term investment. So they're having to scrape the barrel to an extent, and I think from a Liverpool perspective, that's one of the good things that we've done over recent years. We haven't really suffered at all from fan pressure. We waited 6 months for Van Dijk, that kind of thing, whereas we could have just dived in, panic bought a centre-back, but we didn't. So yeah, I think Arsenal have been very poorly run, I'd say, really, in terms of recruitments and the transfer window and that in recent years. So I think they're suffering a bit from that, but this window does look like they're starting to think more with a long-term perspective now, a bit more of a sustainable approach. It's just a positive that Liverpool have been ahead of the curve on that for about 3 or 4 seasons now.
Of course, I wrote down here 6 weeks ago when we were putting this agenda together that they do need huge recruitment this summer. I had a couple of numbers down. 11 points more than their XG points, or their expected points total. And they scored 8 more and conceded 6 fewer. So there's two big overperformances there where they've got to try and meet in the middle. And if they don't, they could drop. But that recruitment says that at the very least they can certainly maintain fifth and maybe not push on more. I'll ask you for your predictions. I know you don't like making predictions, but it's your top 4 now. You see it going just after we've spoken about Manchester United. So I can't remember. I don't think they'd signed Wan-Bissaka and Daniel James. I must admit, when I put this together, I thought Man United would have, by this point, done a hell of a lot more business. I can't believe that they've only signed 2 young British players, largely unproven, although I am a big Wan-Bissaka fan. But let's just talk about them in general and the season that they had first and foremost. It's hard to judge personally because they changed the manager in December. So, you look at how the data, and sometimes it's split and skewered towards one or the other, Mourinho or Solskjaer. But, for the whole season, they conceded 11.65 shots per 90 minutes. And just as a bit of context, City conceded 5.32 and Liverpool 6.96, so nearly 7. But Manchester United, 11-12 shots per 90 minutes. That's something that they've clearly got to address at some point this season. Yeah,
but it just stemmed from a bad season all round, really. Under Mourinho, the heads just weren't there, and he was changing different personnel every single week. Clearly didn't know his best 11, things like that. And then when Solskjaer came in, they really overperformed for about maybe 12 matches, something like that. The underlying performance suggested that the results that they were getting weren't really justified. And then, when that's the case, XG usually comes back and catches up with you eventually. Problem is, it caught up with them too much, and they ended up, by the end of the actual season, underperforming.
Yeah.
It was just an absolute mess at the end of the season. Every single player was crippled. We remember the game against Liverpool at Old Trafford. They made something like 3 substitutions in the first half an hour, I think. And I think, interestingly, that stemmed a little bit from Mourinho and his preference for, how he runs his fitness regime and tactical periodisation and things like that. And apparently it's not boded too well for the current squad. And they've had to really regenerate what they're doing there. Apparently they have done that this summer, although that seems to be the usual narrative when a new coach comes in. Oh, he's up to fitness regime and all that, but just a positive thing that they usually stem
You wonder if the first ever manager there just didn't have them doing anything, because gradually every new manager brings a new an improved fitness regime. So God knows what Graham Souness's was like at Liverpool, because Houllier, Benitez, Dalglish, Hodgson, Rodgers, and now Klopp have all brought in amazing new fitness regimes.
Yeah,
it's just a different way, isn't it? It's just a different style of doing things.
Yeah, it is. But I think United have got a lot to work on this season, and I think they could really finish. I mean, I don't want to say anywhere, because obviously you've got to apply logic to it. I mean, it's within reason. But, I spoke about Chelsea last time. The whole Lampard thing and how he finished much higher with Derby than he should have. Just mentioned there that Arsenal finished 11th for shots taken, 9th for shots against. I think that's allowing a lot of variance there. You're allowing a lot of variance in your matches. They're just getting away with it, I'd say, because of the quality of the players that they've got. But I think gradually, because of the recruitment these teams are undertaking, I think that gap in quality is being closed.
Yep.
I think if you was to make a combined 11 now between United and Leicester
have got a top four midfield. Leicester
they've got a top four defence as well. At present, you've got Harry Maguire, Ricardo Pereira, and Ben Chilwell, who genuinely all three of them getting most sides.
They're caused by Champions League sides.
Yeah, top players. Yeah, West Ham even. There's San Sebastian Haller. Everton right up there. I'm even going to try and pronounce his name. Moise Keane, is it?
Moise Keane. But we've got to call him Moise just because of David Moyes. So, as somebody said, it's a shame that David Moyes isn't still Everton manager, because then it'd be Moise Keane on Moise Keane. But let's go with Moise Keane.
And you mentioned there as well about United shots per match, per 90. Sorry, did you say that was for or against the shots they took?
There's no the shots against.
Right, the shots against. I'll get up there, shots taken now, just to see if they was in a surplus or not there.
So they're basically conceding double the shots that Liverpool and City are, roughly, in a game.
Yeah, which is just not what you want. United, right, so 12.26 shots per 90, so they're having about one shot more than their opponents per match, which again, you're just allowing tons of variance there. I think City take about 10 more shots than their opponents. Liverpool take about, they're on for 14 here. Shots taken.
So that's about 14, seven or 8, yeah.
So, those little 1% where you want to ensure the result as much as possible, that's largely to do with just getting rid of as much variance as you can, which is difficult in football, because it's one of the out of all the sports out there, football incorporates that more than any. But it's just because of those factors, it's just really difficult to predict where United, Arsenal and Chelsea are going to be this season. On United signings there, though, you mentioned Wan-Bissaka. A couple of months now, we done a pod on Liverpool's recruitment, and I think we looked at right back, I'm not sure, and I mentioned Wan-Bissaka. I said that I like him. That was in relation to strictly Liverpool, and that was because ahead of Wan-Bissaka we would have had Trent, who's far more technical than the average fullback. He offers a ton going forwards. So I liked Wan-Bissaka because if we then would face Wilfried Zaha, for example, we could put Wan-Bissaka in, take Trent out.
Far more defensive minded,
more able to cope in isolation, things like that. Whereas for United, I don't know, he's a good player. I do like him. Really, really good defensively, really, really good one-on-one. But I think what they want to be, they want to transition, as far as I'm aware, into a modern, assertive, dominant team who control the play, attack a lot and all that. And I think Wan-Bissaka's not that. Wan-Bissaka's, predominantly defensive, isn't he? He's not going to offer a great deal with possession. And I know that's an overplayed narrative, and sometimes they can get exaggerated. But he's genuinely, there is truth in that, he's genuinely not that progressive on the ball and things like that. So if United want to progress into that type of team, they've added a player who's gonna, if anything, push it the other way. So I didn't overly understand that. And when they signed him as well, apparently the alternative to him was Max Aarons at Norwich, who's the polar opposite. Yes, he's English. Yes, he's young. But you're only identifying the person there, not the profile, not the type of player he is. So just the fact that United are linked with two completely different types of player there at fullback, one's offensive minded and the other one's predominantly defensive. Just, it's just again United's recruitment being a bit hard to understand. I do like Dan James. I think he's a good sign, lightning quick, which it sounds simplistic, but that offers a great deal in attack. 15 million, I think it was. I think he's homegrown as well. So it's likely that, even if he doesn't progress, they're at least going to get the money back in a season or two. So I didn't mind that deal, but yeah, it just remains to be seen what they're going to do for the rest of the window.
They actually finished under Solskjaer. If you take the league from when Solskjaer began as manager, they actually finished third on expected points, which is interesting because, as you say, they massively overperformed in the Champions League as well. To be fair, I mean, how they knocked out PSG is insane. But then they massively underperformed to the point that they were losing 2-0 at home to Cardiff on the final day of the season.
They were Huddersfield as well, I think.
Yeah, they did. Or did they get beat?
They might have even got beat. Yeah, it was definitely away, and I remember watching the second half of it. Can't remember the score now, but it wasn't good.
No, yeah, it certainly wasn't a Manchester United win. Before we try and look at the top four and who's going to finish, not necessarily where, but who's going to finish inside the top four, is there any other business? You mentioned Sebastian Haller, Moise Keane. Is there any business there where you've gone, tell you what, that's I know you're a big fan of Lloyd Kelly as well for Bournemouth, but I don't think he's going to get them into the top four.
No, I want to clarify that one as well. I'm a fan of him as a profile. I don't know if I'll be a fan of him at Bournemouth. Yeah. He will be made to look bad, is my prediction.
Well, Eddie Howe is as decent of a coach that he is, makes can make defenders look bad. And that's why I think Nathan Ake might be a really good defender, because he doesn't look so bad under Eddie Howe. So is there anyone, West Ham, Wolves, Watford, I don't think Watford have signed many people actually, Everton, is there anybody around where you've gone, wow, that's a signing and a half there? Leicester as well, of course.
You've put me on the spot with this one. I didn't expect this question.
Yeah, sorry. I just know that all summer you've been basically writing about everybody who's been getting recruited. So just off the top of your head, is there a player?
I think a lot of the obvious signings are really, really good. Rodri's one, and Ndombele's one. Sebastian Haller is a player that I really like. He offers a lot. Bit of a complete striker. Did
well with Frankfurt, didn't he, next to Jovic?
He did, yeah. And his goal involvement, so assists and goals, in terms of minutes. So his average scoring contribution was something like every 113 minutes maybe, which was, I think it was better last season in the Premier League by only about 2 strikers. I think one was Aguero. The other one might have been Aubameyang, I'm not sure. So he's definitely a good signing. Saliba's good. Pepe will be superb. Let's have a look. Moise Keane, I thought that was a surprise.
Well, give us a little bit of what I must admit I haven't seen much of him. Is this?
No, he's just.
How's he ended up at Everton? With no disrespect to Everton, but he's meant to be this wonder kid at Juventus, and Juventus's recruitment, or more so, going the other way. Obviously, there's Dybala, there's Mandzukic who they're trying to get rid of, and now Moise Keane. What's going on there? Well, is he going to be a good signing for Everton?
I think he's going to be a good signing. Yeah, I think what Juventus is doing is a bit mad. And I'm not sure if it's particularly well advised, to be honest, because they seem to be happy to get rid of Dybala, who's 25, Moise Keane, who's I think 19. He's 19, yeah, meant to be the next big thing as well. And they seem to be really stockpiling tons of players who are on big wages, maybe getting on a little bit as well. Ronaldo's getting on, Mandzukic is getting on.
I mean, they potentially might get Lukaku going the other way if he goes.
Be on a big wage. So I don't know. It looks like they're just trying to go. They're just going all in and all into win the Champions League. And they've just lost Allegri as well. And they've got Sarri in now. Sarri's good. I like Sarri, but he offers no. What's the word? he doesn't care in the slightest about what type of profile you are. He'll fit you into his system.
Square pegs, round holes.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, that. Don't get me wrong. He'll pick who's vaguely the most suitable to each role, but there'll be very few alterations based on your own personal tendencies and things like that. So for Juventus to sign so many players, a lot of variants. Lukaku on the Sarri feels a bit weird.
It feels like Higuain, doesn't it? I mean, he's a bit more mobile than Higuain, but
I like Lukaku. He's good, but he's a bit technically awkward. Sometimes looks a bit uncoordinated. Obviously, you can't have that in the Sarri system. It's a lot about ball progression, a lot about control, possession, and things like that. So I don't know. Juventus is a bit crazy, and Everton seem to have exploited that very cleverly. I'm not sure if there'll be a buyback on that.
Apparently not, but there's a first refusal.
Yeah, something along them lines. Hence why they're getting him for a reduced fee. And I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal as well, which is another reason why he's relatively cheap. But I think last season, I'll have to get it up now, I think he didn't get a single assist, but he didn't play that many minutes, and he scored something like, the figure in my head's either 17 or 28.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of difference there. But yeah, he's just very talented player. You can tell when you're watching him play. He's very talented, technically very good, strong, quick. Conversion rate's good as far as I'm aware. So last season, all competitions. Just wait for Rice to load. He only played 1,660 minutes. Yeah, 17 it was. Yeah, so he scored 17. Getting up his shot map here now. I think his shot map's fairly decent, a lot in the penalty box. Yeah, things like that, yeah. Not sure if the cameras can see that.
We'll figure this out as we go along, how we can get all this sort of thing on screen.
Yeah, I'm not used to being filmed. But yeah, he's a good son.
Although to be fair, I'm just having a look at his. So, in Serie A there, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He scored 6 goals in 7 games, and that's it. In terms of, in a 7-game spell, he scored 6 goals.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's
purple patch.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's a good purple patch because he played twice before he played against Udinese and scored twice. So it looks to me as if Juventus have just absolutely thrown him in March. And from that moment, he goes on and scores 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. And then he's back in and out the team for the last 5-6 games of the season and doesn't score. So
yeah, I'd say
it's a gamble, but
I'd say it's a very, very clever gamble personally. Though for 30 million to get a player who's that young with such a complete all-round game, he's got a really, really high ceiling in him. The only problem is if he does reach ridiculous levels, Juventus have got a first refusal on him. Mind you, a first refusal is not related to a fee, is it?
No. It's so basically what happens if Everton are about to sell him to, let's say, Real Madrid
for 100 million.
Yeah, they've got to give Juventus a bell and say,
okay. Oh well, that's not too bad then. That's a great deal. Bournemouth recently as well signed Philip Billing. I think that was a good deal. 15 million. Very physical midfielder from Huddersfield, who obviously struggle to thrive with the players around them.
Although, again, with Bournemouth, they're all over the place for me in terms of they're spending 15 million on a position where they broke the record transfer fee 12 months ago. It feels like on Jefferson Lerma. It just feels like it's kind of supermarket sweep where they don't really know where to, they just see good players and they just stockpile them and they just decide how to, it doesn't really feel like there's any sort of design there. It's just let's buy good players to keep our heads above water, which they do, to be fair.
Jose Perez went to Leicester, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were a bit confused by that one, but he's very, very good defensively. He puts in, he's a bit like a Firmino in that regard. He puts in the shift and he's technically good. Scored a decent amount of goals in a very, very defensive team on the Rafa at Newcastle. So I think that's one to watch. That 30 million for Jose Perez sounds a bit mad, but I think it's one that could, under Rodgers, Rodgers tends to be quite good in terms of getting the most out of attackers and their little tendencies in attack and stuff like that. So I think he'll be decent.
I would have been interested in him at Liverpool.
Yeah.
Perez? As the ultimate sort of, and we'll move on to this, but as the free player who will cost about 20 to 30 million, who won't be on big wages and won't expect to play every week, he felt like somebody Liverpool could have looked at if he's gone to Leicester for that price.
One more as well, centre back for Villa. I've wrote about him before, Conce.
Yes,
Charlton,
the young Charlton lad.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I wrote for Villa a couple of months ago. I think it was in March, on what their perfect window would be. And I recommended Conce, and he's now signed. So that's obviously positive on my regard.
To go along with your left backs. If you haven't heard the previous episode when we were basically linking left backs for Liverpool and who they should go for, if I remember, we had Angelino, who's now gone back to Man City. We had Lloyd Kelly, who's gone to Bournemouth. And I think I threw in Justin James, who's just gone to Leicester at an £8 million
he's
deal.
He's a really good signing, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Great signing.
Yeah, if you want defenders, come to us.
Yeah, but I think Villa's business other than that is a bit...
It could be Fulham. It could be Fulham all over again.
It could be, yeah, but I don't know. Some of the signings are just... Like I wrote about that Trezeguet guy, and he's... Picture Andre Schürrle. He's basically that. Shoots from anywhere. A bit mad. Might score 2 from 40 yards and end up on a load of FPL teams. But then won't do anything for about 10 weeks.
Yep.
He's a bit all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see how they do this season. But this year the table could be ending, I think.
Well, we'll move on to that in general. I suppose, we'll do a bit of a season preview next week, but it'll mainly be Liverpool. So we'll touch upon it now. Who's getting top 4?
I think City, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea.
You think Chelsea get top 4?
Yeah, purely because of the squad. Not because I particularly rate Lampard, but because I think Chelsea have still got that gap in player quality. I think Arsenal are losing that. United are losing that. Remains to be seen what business at this stage they will do. So obviously I'm speaking today.
31st of July.
Yeah, but I still think Chelsea have got a very good all-round squad full of pros and things like that, and I think they may be like a bit in attacking areas, but I think Tammy Abraham will get a go this season, and I'm a big fan of him. I think he'll do very well, but I'm not sure yet. And ask me again after the end of the window, I think.
Yeah. Well, we will do. We will do the post window podcast as well. Just in general then, over who's going to overperform, who's going to underperform. I don't mean in terms of underlying numbers. I basically mean who's going to exceed expectations and who's not going to meet them.
In the whole league? I think... I'm not sure about Wolves.
I think Europe might scupper them as well.
Yeah, they've got a small squad.
Yeah.
And beyond what they already had last season, they've only added Kristian from AC Milan. Decent sign. Spoke to him the other day, but he's not going to bring them onto a next level by any means. I think he adds a little bit of depth, that's fine, but I'm just not sure that they're going to be able to, like their season's already started now. I think it started about 2 weeks ago, in fact, I'm not sure. So I'm not exactly sure. People think they're going to be challenging the top 4 and things like that this season because of what they've done last season, but I think they might eventually do it, but I'm not sure that'll happen this year. And overperforming, I think Spurs will have a very good season, providing they add to what they've already got. The link with Lo Celso, and the link with Sessegnon.
And Dybala.
Yeah, and Dybala, yeah. So if they can add, I think Spurs will have a very good season. I think Ndombele is the type of player, like a Van Dijk, Alisson type player that does push you on to the next level and heightens your ceiling. I think Leicester will have a very good season, and possibly Everton. But again, it's just guesswork at the minute, just because you don't know who they're going to sign. Like.
Okay, so let's not go on guesswork. Let's go on what we know and what we know best, and that is Liverpool. I say we began this first part 5 weeks ago, so it was always meant to be about Liverpool's rivals. But of course, a lot has happened at Liverpool since then. Not necessarily in the transfer market. They've signed Sepp van den Berg, the young Dutch defender, as you know, and Harvey Elliott. who's a 16-year-old from Fulham. Talk about transfers in a little bit, Josh, but first of all, you put out a little shout out on Twitter, and if you want to follow Josh on Twitter, it's @distancecovered, and he asked any questions for Analysing Anfield, and the first one was pre-season, what has gone wrong? And can you just sum it up any better? What's gone wrong? This is someone who's been in the US and watched a number of those games. Someone who no doubt you will have seen the Napoli game pre-season. What's gone wrong?
I just think it's Klopp's the type of manager that he likes a small squad. He doesn't like, dealing with players who aren't necessarily going to be involved a great deal. And I think ultimately when we rotate our team and when players play that aren't used to being in a Klopp system, specifically in attack, we just look like we look like a gang of strangers. We look like we lack rhythm, understanding, cohesion from back to front. When you lack cohesion from back to front, if you press, you're going to leave gaps. You need to be compact to press, and you're not going to be compact if there's a lack of understanding amongst the 11 on the pitch. And I think whenever we seem to play in the domestic cups, I'm thinking Wolves last season away. I think it was the FA Cup, was it?
Yep.
We again look like a gang of strangers. We look like we don't know each other, and the reason for that is, again, these players just ultimately don't really play with each other. They don't really get that much game time. So when you involve them, as I said, there's just a lack of cohesion, and Liverpool are really everything about what Liverpool do is based on one unit. Unity, everything being done in unison, and if that's not happening, you're much more likely to be picked off. You're going to be much more open. You're going to concede many more shots and things like that. So just the fact that we've been including the likes of Ryan Kent, Brewster at this point is not fully ingrained in the system. Harry Wilson, the midfielders that have had opportunities, Nat Phillips, players like this. It's just lacking that cohesion, lacking that organisation that we are so good at having. Obviously the front three, the absence of those leaves us a bit toothless up front. I don't think we've got backups anywhere near the front three, and we'll address that in a minute. But yeah, I don't think it's anything that we overly need to worry about, because we see it in domestic cups, as I've said. It's just a lack of understanding amongst the 11 on the pitch. They're not used to playing together. All those little intricacies. And another thing worth mentioning as well, we've got no Alisson. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the introduction of a new keeper, the introduction of Alisson, I think above all else impacts results rather than performance to an extent. I think having a top goalkeeper just massively impacts results above performance. 2 seasons ago, De Gea had a wonderful season, overperformed by about 13 goals. United finished second as a result. This season, we bring Alisson in over Mignolet. We end up getting 97 points. You know what I mean? So there's all kinds of other factors influencing that. But I think a top goalkeeper really has an impact on the results that you get. And I think if we had Alisson in this pre-season, maybe he'll have gotten a couple more draws, maybe a win. I'm not too sure, and I don't think the situation would look as grim. But I don't think it's anything to worry about, to be too concerned about once we have our usual 11 back on the pitch.
So, second question: do you think, not taking injuries into consideration, our squad is good enough to challenge for the title again? Is standing still a step back regarding a lack of transfers?
This could be a long question.
Is this a separate pod?
Well, it's tricky, isn't it? Because there's so many perspectives you can look at. Do
you want me to throw mine in straight away?
Yeah, go on.
I think Liverpool absolutely do need to sign somebody, but I also think this is the worst window to possibly try and do it. Because there are specific players that Liverpool needs and they're just not available.
Right.
And they're not a club who stockpile for the sake of it. And that's why they are where they are now, because they haven't done what other clubs have done and stockpile for the sake of it.
I think what I'll say is Liverpool last season, 97 points. We lost once. And I'm going to say it again. We lost once in 38 matches. Lost once. And that was to
Manchester City. 98 points.
We're the fittest team in the league. Fastest team in the league. That is not going to change. So, Liverpool are still going to be the animal that they were. The difference is, you can't really... It's hard to gauge the influence that a new signing can have on a squad in terms of hunger. And, you know, if a new lad comes in, you want to impress, don't you? It does give you that push, the competitive edge kind of thing, where you want to keep your place and all that stuff. So, the fact we haven't done any of that, you don't know the influence that that's going to have. And I do think my major thing is we really desperately need another attacker who is roughly on the same level as the front three that we've already got. Origi is not. Shaqiri is not. Brewster is not yet. I've got no problem with Brewster playing a fair amount of minutes this season. You know, borderline 2,000 for me. I've got no problem with that. I like the way he links play. I think he's got a very high ceiling as a Firmino type. I'm not sure he's particularly a Salah Mane, you know, pacey wide attacker who's going to cut inside. But I think I like the way he links play with his first touch and things like that. It's just such a tricky situation to assess completely. I think last season we deserved to be where we were, and I think this season we'd have to drop off a cliff to finish anywhere below second. Do I think we can challenge and win the league? No, no, I don't. The reason for that is we deserve to be where we were last season, but the gap shouldn't have been 1 point. It should have been about 7.
That's with expected points as well, isn't it? In terms of XA, XG,
it's
goals conceded.
City are an absolute analytics dream. They create plenty more shots than whoever they face, and the shots that they do create are always very, very clear cut. The ball's always pinballing around in very, very crucial areas around the penalty box. They've got depth in abundance. The best manager in the world for that specific type of play and for that specific team. He's absolutely ideally suited to beating teams that are bad, basically. So, you know, for us to win the league over them, they'd have to have a serious distraction, I think, in the Champions League or something like that, or would have to go again another season, losing maybe once or losing a few more times, but winning many more rather than drawing. It's just it's tricky. It's tricky. What was the second part of that question?
So the second part was, is standing still a step back regarding the lack of transfers?
Yeah, on that, I think I always do everything I can to understand from the club's perspective before, you know, expressing whether I'm annoyed or not. But on that, I really can't really get my head around not going further. Do you know what I mean? Not
using the status as European champions as well. Do you think that plays a part? Do you think that's where a little bit of the annoyance is? And ultimately, this is a show based on steeped in analytics. Is that the wrong way to look at it? Because do clubs think about that? Do clubs think we're champions of Europe, we have to make a sign? And is that bad recruitment?
Bad recruitment is signing players you don't need yet. Like, well, I'll mention Pepe now. Pepe is a player who is very, very Liverpool. I tweeted this the other day. He's perfect age, very direct, very erratic. So in terms of the style of play, he suits us to a T. Very unpredictable on the ball, so he allows us to impose our chaotic brand of football, let's say. He's versatile. He can play on the right side where Salah plays, and he's also vaguely capable through the middle in a similar way to how Mane did it last season. He's quick, physical, never gets injured, scores, creates, good on the break, and he shoots an awful lot as well. They're all, from a recruitment perspective, they're all ideals. They're all that's exactly what you want. The problem is, he cost 80 million. Now, from a Liverpool perspective, is our need for a fourth attacker worth 80 million? From the club's perspective, it's obviously not. And I share that belief, I think. As much as I want Pepe, and as much as we need a player like Pepe, our void just isn't worth that amount. That's Van Dijk level difference.
As you said about Ndombele, it's that next level.
Yeah, and he's not going to take us to the next level per se. He's not going to have an impact on the first 11 and have an impact on results in such a manner as Van Dijk and Alisson have. They both justified those big fees for that reason. Pepe, I'm sure, would love him. I'm sure the club would love him. Klopp would love him. But we just can't justify that price. And Liverpool are where they are because we've made such good decisions, very, very, very efficient, zero wastage and things like that. And with Pepe considering the minutes that Salah's going to play, like one of the other questions I got through was about minutes. How many minutes I think it said would we expect our fourth attacker to play this season? I think a quality fourth attacker at Liverpool this season, you're probably looking at about 2,000 to 2,500 minutes, something like that. Salah last season played 4,586. We've got only 34 of those were in the domestic cup. Mane played 4,538, only 71 in domestic cups. Firmino 3,582, but only 50 in domestic cups. So all these shouts about, we're in 7 competitions this season. One of them competitions is in a couple of days, so you can discount that one. The Club World Cup's 2 matches, so
that's more travel disruption rather than and the backlog of fixtures rather than the actual 290 minutes. Because without being disrespectful, the semi-final will be against probably the champions of Africa or Asia, and then you're looking at the champions of South America. It's not going to be a taxing game. Certainly the first one. Yeah,
I think what I'm getting at is I don't think there's going to be an expectation on the front three's shoulders to play in 7 competitions this season, because people are saying that and without context. What I do think the expectation will be is that the 3 can do last season again, whereby playing a full Premier League season in virtually 38 games without getting injured, and the same in the Champions League. The real problem with that is the lack of rest that they've had. They all 3 played over the summer, including our full season last year. So it's just a big risk that I don't personally think we need to take, and I'm surprised that we're taking. And that's why I just think we could just add a fourth attacker who's better than Origi and more suitable to our game than Shaqiri, because he doesn't work particularly hard, and something like that. By all accounts, the club has paid a great deal out in new contracts and in bonus winnings for the Champions League. So, and we obviously spent big last year. So, for those reasons, we've obviously had to cut back a bit. Now, if we was diving in like Arsenal did with Lacazette and Aubameyang, would be in a bad state a couple of years down the line. So, I think our current position now, we've got a very versatile small squad that can compensate for a variety of positions. Say Mane gets in, you can put Ox over there if you have to.
He hasn't been great in pre-season out wide.
No, he hasn't. It's not ideal, don't get me wrong, but we do have those internal solutions. It's just a case of whether we really have to put ourselves in a position whereby we have to do things like that. But I don't know. It's a difficult situation. I can understand both sides of the argument. I don't think we need additions. I think we have enough there to go one more season. But when I say go one more season, I can't see us win the Premier League, and I can't see us going any better than last year. Certainly, I think last year is the max we can hope for this season coming, unless we add further. It's just a difficult situation. Yeah, it's tricky.
Liverpool obviously at times do their recruitment 12 months in advance, and you do wonder as well whether there is some sort of, and I'm not saying Mbappe 2020, but you do wonder if in a year's time whether Liverpool at that point, Milner will be a year older, Lallana's contract will have expired, Dejan Lovren will be 31, the front three will all be 28, 29 at that point. You talk about running the front three into the ground. Well, and this isn't a suggestion. This is no, inside knowledge. Are they not too concerned about that because maybe one of them, Salah, Firmino, might be looking to get sold? I don't know. I don't want to put that out there as a this is definitely happening. You just wonder.
Well, I think if Salah was getting sold this summer, for example, I think would be absolutely all over Pepe for that fee. 80 million would be fine. It's just a case of, although I said Pepe's versatile and he can play through the middle.
He plays Salah's position.
He is a Salah.
Yeah.
He's so similar to Salah. He's just a bit more, he's taller. A bit less creative, a bit less of a poacher. And he's a bit more of a Zaha type, I'd say. He's like a hybrid of Salah and Zaha. But he's still really, really good and he's the best possible replacement we could get out there for Salah. I just think with him being very much a Salah, you don't want to spend 80 million on a Salah backup.
No.
If he was to play up front in place of Firmino, it's not the same dynamic that Firmino provides. You can put him. You can say, someone said to me this week, give him 1,000 minutes or something like that on the left. No. Salah, how many times has Salah played on the left for Klopp? It's not something he does.
And it doesn't work. It wouldn't work. That's not how he
it's unrealistic.
This is the problem in general with this summer, and I think this is actually having a big impact. You look at the right-hand side, and you've got Salah, you've got Wilson, you've got Shaqiri, they've just signed Elliott, who's obviously one for the future. If you could get if Pepe was a mirror image, and if Pepe was a right-footed player on the left, I think Liverpool would be banging for him because they've only really got Sadio Mane on that left-hand side who can cut in on his right foot, but it really feels a little bit right side heavy at the moment, and if Mane was to get injured, I think Liverpool would be in a fair bit of bother because there is no real direct replacement, whereas at least if Salah got injured, I mean, I think it's a big drop off. It's too much for a drop off, but you're looking at Shaqiri and you're looking at Wilson, so I feel like that is a big part to play as well, the fact that Pepe is that type of player.
Yeah.
What Liverpool needs, and I suppose we'll come on to this as question number 3, is if you could add one player to the squad, one realistic late signing that we could make this year that could fit into the squad and you think will improve us and not just be a solid bench warmer. For me, it's a player who can play on the left of the front three but also do a stint up front to give Firmino's legs a rest. So we're almost an upgrade on Origi. I've got no problem with Origi still being here. I think he's a Liverpool legend. I think he's still got an important thing. We know about his conversion rate. What was it, 41% he ended up with last season? He's not far off it this season, this pre-season as well. But I think you need that player, as you say, who can challenge in the front three, but specifically who can challenge Mane. I think it's, having not watched much at all of him last season, I think it's probably Timo Werner. But it surprises me that he's got 1 year left in his contract and there doesn't seem to be any movement whatsoever for him anywhere.
That's what I was going to say. It's definitely worth noting.
What's that all about?
That all the rumours that were surrounding Werner have been completely silent for the whole summer. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Leipzig, by all accounts, wanted to sell him because they've got to cash in. They're the type of club that can't afford to let players go for free. That's completely silent. I find that very, very weird.
Surely Bayern would want him.
Yeah, and I
know that sounds really simplistic, but surely Bayern Munich will be. I mean, they've done it with Lewandowski. They've done
unless,
it with
unless they know they can't get him for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but it's very weird. And I spoke before as well about Liverpool being super efficient and things like that. Waiting a year to get him on a free would be extremely clever. It epitomised Liverpool's business in the past couple of seasons because that would be very, very shrewd, clever business. It just means we're going 1 more year, just risking risking the health of the front three. And it's worth saying as well, though, that like it's unlikely that 2 or 3 of those players in our attack are going to get injured at the same time. So let's say Mane gets injured for about 5 games. Then Brewster comes in for 5 games, or Origi comes in for 5 games.
Or you move Firmino out to the right, to the left, which isn't ideal, and then you move.
Or Shaqiri comes in for 5 games. You still got Alisson behind you. You still got Fabinho there. You still got Van Dijk there. Still got Salah. So, is it really going to impact us that much? One player coming out for 3 or 4 games, maybe. It'd only really kill us if it was like a De Bruyne-esque injury, whereby the player was persistently out for a long period of time, and his numbers couldn't be made up for over an extended period. Another bit of context I'd like to provide is some other people's answers to me on Twitter have been sign Pepe and change the formation. I think that's an unrealistic shout.
Simply, so what would that be? That would be Firmino as the 10, Salah is up front, Pepe and Mane.
That'd be... Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry. Pepe and Mane on the flanks, yeah. So, I think that's realistic against lower teams, like we saw last season, with Shaqiri coming into play against the inferior teams just to break them down simply. But then I think it's you've got to put into perspective that Klopp has worked on 4-3-3 for about 3 seasons now. That's Liverpool. That's just the way we play. That's our system that he's ingrained over years and years and years with a set group, a set base of players. All of them players fully understand that system. So after a 97-point season where you've lost once and you've won the Champions League, to then go and change your formation is just, it's unnecessary really. It's just, when I say it's unnecessary, it's just, I just don't think it's that much of a realistic shout. I don't think it's going to happen.
That's why 4-1-4-1 in pre-season's jarred so much, because it's...
Yeah.
And I think he's just doing that because he's getting minutes in the bank for players, and this is the system that makes sure that Oxlade-Chamberlain can get those minutes. But yeah, he's always going to be 4-3-3, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. But I think for the upcoming season, I think the squad's got enough to get us through another season. I'd be surprised if we finished lower than second, even the way we are now, without any more signings at all. I'd be surprised if we finished lower than second. Again, the Champions League, we just seem to be a different animal in that competition. Klopp seems unbeatable in that competition. We still have Anfield in that competition. We're now in the first pot as well, so our group should be easier. So I'd fancy us to do well again. I think if we go in as we are now, the best we can hope for is last season. Whereas if we'd have strengthened further, you then open up the prospect of going one better. That's the frustration, I think. But we're not going to drop off a cliff. Liverpool's still going to be firmly in the top 2 in England. I'm just not sure whether we're going to be as close to City. That just remains to be seen. I think City, as I said, are just ideally suited to win the leagues under Guardiola.
I agree. I can't see Liverpool win the league next season, which is, I don't know, it might be defeatist, but
I think even with Pepe though, it would really be a long shot, a long shot, because as I said, City are just absolutely
198 over 2 seasons.
Yeah, they are. As I said, the analytics dream for a team. They are what you want a team to be doing, with the exception of making the most of set pieces, which they have now apparently recruited people that work on set pieces behind the scenes. So they're just, they're a very difficult team to amass more points than over the course of a season, even with additions. And another thing as well, if we'd have signed another attacker, our pre-season would have still went as it's gone, because we'd have still been, mainly lacking cohesion, lacking compactness and all them things.
Let's say they signed Pepe, he was with the Ivory Coast in the African Cup of Nations.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there you go, yeah, exactly.
So he will only be coming this week as well.
Yeah, we still have the best defender in the league, in the world for me. We still have the best goalkeeper in the league, possibly in the world for me. Our front 3 are still ridiculous and still extremely healthy. They're not prone to injuries at all. Still had Trent and Robertson. You know what I mean? It's still very much Liverpool. We haven't lost our team. We haven't lost anybody. We've had a few very, very talented kids who people think they're not going to make that much of a difference. As I said, if you've still got 10 of your usual players and then you throw in Harvey Elliott, that team's still going to be ridiculous because you've still got everything there, 95% of what you usually see with the addition of a very talented kid. So it just depends how we manage it. But Liverpool are a very, very smart club, the smartest in the world for me at the minute. The way we've been run in recent years and things like that. Ahead of the curve, I think Liverpool are. So although it's worrying, although it's concerning, you'd like the club to go that extra mile and try and get the Premier League sorted. I think it's safe to say that ultimately the club do know what they're doing. You know what I mean? We're in good hands.
You'll have to try and tell that to a couple of people on social media. The way it's going, there's a lot of hashtag FSGout that we're seeing at the moment. Thanks very much, Josh. Just really, really quickly as well before we finish for good for this week, and we will be back next week. We won't be going on a 5-week hiatus. It's the Community Shield. Does it matter? And are you slightly worried Liverpool could get tonked by Man City? Because I am.
I'm not sure we'll get tonked. I think we'll go very cautious. I think it wouldn't surprise me if for the first couple of weeks of the season we focus on trying to win matches using the defence rather than the attack, because we haven't really got an attack at the minute. Does it matter? If you win it, yes.
That's what Klopp said.
But he's right. He's absolutely spot on.
No, that's what he said the other way. He said if you lose it, it matters, and then if you win it, no one cares.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I know.
I completely
look at that way as well, can't you?
I completely understand where he's coming from. Because if we do lose, there will be probably uproar, and people think it offers a platform for the rest of the season. Which, if both teams had their absolute full 11s, then maybe so. But Liverpool are going to be far from the Premier League team we're going to see for the rest of the season. So I'm not that fussed. Would I like us to win it? Yes. If we don't win it, I will not be bothered in the slightest.
Yeah, it's just that you'd have to get the sextuple instead of the septuple instead. Thanks very much for joining us, Josh. So yeah, we are back. We will be doing this weekly. It will also be a video, and keep an eye on the Blood Red subscribers Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, just type in Blood Red Podcast and join, because we will hopefully be doing a couple more videos on our Blood Red channel around Analysing Anfield. Also, a big thank you to everybody who came up to me when I was over in the US. I was in Carragher's Bar doing a couple of live shows with the Anfield Rap and also the LFC fan event, and we had a couple of people come up to us and say how much they enjoy Analysing Anfield. You've got a bit of a following over there, Josh. You're nearly as big as the Beatles by the sounds of it. So if that was you, always give us a shout on Twitter. I'm Kristian_Walsh and Josh is Distance Covered. Thank you very much for listening. We're back in the saddle now. We'll be back next week to talk about the Community Shield and preview Liverpool's march to second into the Premier League. So thanks very much. Take care for now. Goodbye.